What is something your child said that you'll never forget? When my son Jake was 5, I made the mistake of letting him watch a crime documentary with me. I figured he was too young to understand, but he started asking all these questions about bad guys and how the police catch them. Being a single dad, I tried to explain things simply, that some people do bad things and the police help catch them so everyone stays safe. Jake became obsessed with being a detective. He'd walk around the house with a magnifying glass, looking for clues and grilling everyone with suspicious questions. It was adorable. He'd interrogate the mailman about why he came at different times, ask the grocery clerk why certain items were missing from shelves. Everyone thought it was hilarious. One day he asked me, "Daddy, how do police know who the bad guys are?" I said, "Well, they look for evidence, like fingerprints or if someone saw them do it." "What if nobody saw them?" he asked. "Then they look for other clues like DNA or security cameras," I explained, trying to keep it simple. He nodded seriously and said, "So if there's no evidence, they can't catch the bad guy." "That's right, buddy. That's why evidence is really important." I thought it was just innocent curiosity. I had no idea what was coming. 3 weeks later, we were at parent-teacher conferences. Jake's teacher, Mrs. Aiden, had always loved him. He was bright, respectful, and super popular with the other kids. I was expecting nothing but good news. Mrs. Aiden smiled as we sat down and said, "Jake is such a wonderful student, so intelligent and inquisitive." "Thank you." I grinned with pride. But then she added, "There was one incident yesterday that was unusual." My stomach dropped. "What happened?" I asked. "Well, we were doing show and tell, and Jake brought in a photo of your family. He was telling the class about everyone in the picture." "Sounds normal," I said, confused. Mrs. Aiden shifted awkwardly. He pointed to the photo of his mom and said, "This is my mommy. She doesn't live with us anymore because she's dead." I felt the blood drain from my face. Jake's mom wasn't dead. We were divorced and she lived across town. But then Mrs. Aiden continued, a little more quietly now. "Jake told the class, my daddy unalived her, but there's no evidence, so the police can't catch him." The room started spinning. I couldn't breathe. "He told the class you're really smart because you didn't leave any fingerprints or DNA and nobody saw you do it." Then he said, "That's why we moved to this new house, to hide from the police." I stared at her in horror. We had just moved, but only because I got a better job. Jake's mom was alive and well. She just traveled a lot for work and hadn't seen Jake in a couple weeks. "Mr. Parker," Mrs. Aiden leaned forward, her voice concerned. "I have to ask, is everything okay at home?" "His mom is alive," I practically shouted. "We're divorced. She travels for work. Jake hasn't seen her in a month because she's been in Chicago." But I could see it, the doubt in her eyes. The other parents in the hallway had gone silent, all glancing over. "Jake was very detailed," Mrs. Aiden said carefully. "He said you taught him how to hide evidence. That's why he's such a good detective." And then it hit me. Jake had connected all the dots. The crime shows, my talks about evidence, his mom's absence, the recent move. In his 5-year-old mind, he had built an entire murder mystery, with me as the killer. "I need to call my ex-wife right now," I said, fumbling for my phone, but the damage had already been done. By the time I got to Jake's classroom, he was proudly telling his friends even more details about how smart his daddy was for getting away with it. 23 5-year-olds now believed their classmate's dad was a criminal mastermind who had gotten away with murder. I spent the next hour on the phone with Jake's mom, begging her to come to the school immediately to prove she was alive. The principal, 2 teachers, and a very concerned school counselor stood by as my very much alive ex-wife walked through the doors. Jake's face lit up. "Mommy, you're supposed to be dead!" The silence in that room could have shattered glass. That night, I had to sit my little detective down and explain why Daddy wasn't a killer, why Mommy was very much alive, and why we really need to be careful about what we say, especially at school.